welcome to the Ching Cafe. My name is Belinda Doveston, and it is wonderful that you are here with me for our monthly Ching forecast for February 2026. Last month, we are saying goodbye to January. January's energy, we had, that challenging Hexagram 39, obstacle, obstruction, really bringing to our awareness, particularly for the first half of January, feeling blocked, cut off, misunderstood, exhausted perhaps, limping, injured, just a big boulder in the path, obstructing progress forward. We learned through working with that hexagram last month that the way we deal with these kinds of obstructions when they come to our lives is to find a way around them. We might be tempted to bash ourselves against that obstacle over and over, to really just put all our force into it, all our will and our might, and just brute force push it out the way. That is not what that flow of change was coming to bring us. We had to learn new ways around the obstacle. We had to accept the injury, sometimes just being in a place of acceptance of the obstruction, the injury, the halting, the stoppage, whatever is this blockage that has come into our path and has taught us some lessons last month. We had to learn new ways, right? Get helpers, be creative, step back, re-strategize, rethink and reevaluate the situation we're really in and find new ways around it. And then we had Hexagram 53, development, making progress, putting our feet one foot in front of the other as we made our way to the mountain, to summit something, to overcome something, to achieve something, and growing beautifully as we did so. Taking a step at a time, not being in a rush, not being impatient, but this beautiful gradual progress, this development. Because progress is one thing, moving from here to here, getting somewhere. This is about developing and deepening and extending roots down into the ground. That beautiful tree on the hill that comes up in the imagery for Hexagram 53. Of really being a beacon, an example, right? And really deepening and developing and strengthening the root system, finding ways of getting the year going through that. So I personally had a very challenging experience with obstruction in January, and I trust that if you encountered this energy, this injury, this halting, this stoppage, that you thought, the I Ching says, find new ways around it, accept the injury, accept the situation, find new ways, and through that releasing the energy, moving forward in a new way. So if anything came up for you, and I know there's quite a few of you who spoke about obstruction over the last few weeks, if there's any stories you'd like to share, please do leave a comment. They are always wonderful for us all to share in those stories. Okay, so February 2026. When we work with the I Ching, yes, you can work with the I Ching in a very predictive, fortune-telling-y type way. That's not what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is present this idea that as we go through life, there are different themes. Some themes pop up for us to address. Some themes become things that if we tackle them, if we tune into those themes, into the stories playing out, we can do better. We can move through the situations we find ourselves in a more wholesome, positive way and get somewhere through them, no matter what they are. And so they pop up, they well up, and they say, right, this month we have 2 hexagrams. We do have a changing line, just one, but we have 2 hexagrams that have popped up, a story to help us focus on the month, not to lose ourselves in the way, and really get somewhere in February. So with that preamble in play, I have to tell you that our first hexagram for February, our main flow of change for this month, is hexagram 29, the Abysmal. You know this one. It's a doubling of water. Water on the top, water on the bottom. An intensification of the water pumping down the ravine. This hexagram brings us, in a way, 2 different facets. The main kind of traditional way, or one way of thinking of it, is it brings danger, risk, and challenge. Difficulty. Okay. And the difficulty and the experience is like this water pumping down the ravine. We're in the ravine, perhaps we've been on a hike, and there's water and rain that's happened, further inland, and now the water's barreling down this canyon this canal and heading out to sea. Okay, and we are walking along, having a nice day trip down the bottom of this ravine, and here comes the water. All right, so that symbolizes, and if you are slightly claustrophobic or fearful of water, you can feel the tension building, all right, of all that water coming. And what it represents is that there is challenge afoot. Okay, challenges, repeated issues we have to deal with. It can be very emotional challenges. Water is often a symbol of intense emotions. We think about, how do we deal with these emotions? How do we survive the onslaught of this water coming down the ravine? Well, the answer always is to be like water. So we deal with the challenge by letting go into the water, right, and becoming a molecule of water. We've got our life jacket on, and if we just stay the course and we stay calm, we let the water take us, we go with the flow, and we just bob on the water. Obviously keep our wits about us. We don't want to bump into, things and trees and rocks and stuff. But what we do is we keep our wits about us, but we let the water take us. And so this represents letting go into the flow, recognizing danger, recognizing risk and challenge, letting go into that flow. Okay, so on one hand, there's this opportunity to let go into the flow. We're needing to let go of the side of the canyon that we're holding on to for dear life and let the water take us. On the other hand, we have to be aware that we are entering a phase in February of challenge and risk and intensity. Okay, and how we deal with that is we stay calm, we stay floating. Okay, we don't panic, we don't try and fight the water or try and climb onto the side or expel all our energy trying to swim to something, to cling to something, the thing that we know, the thing that is old. Okay, we let the water take us. Now, for us, this might be a challenge, an emotional or otherwise, an intense challenge in February, okay, or multiple challenges, one after the other, that we have to deal with, where we feel like it's just too much. Okay, it might also be the acceleration of good things, okay, because we often say, oh, well, this must be terrible, terrible things coming at us, one thing at a time. But it can also be the side effect of things working and intensification of activity. Perhaps this is the month where you've been hoping for lots of sales and lots of customers and lots of projects, and they come so thick and so fast you don't even know what to do with yourself. And that brings this challenge. All right, how do we deal with the intensification of the flow? We be like water. Okay, so whether it's a difficult challenge, or whether it's a positive challenge, okay, let's see how things unfold for us. We be like water, and that is how we get through it. One changing line in the first position. Now you're going to visualize, you're thinking about a canyon or a ravine, this abyss, okay? It's not a bottomless abyss. There is a bottom, okay, and this changing line being right at the bottom is at the bottom of the abyss. The risk is that the water pummels us down, 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 down to the bottom. When you get into those situations where you are caught in an eddy and the eddy takes you down. Now, if you've never had that experience, I haven't. But we've seen it on movies, we've seen it in documentaries where, that's game over. What we have to recognize is that there is something in ourselves that we are becoming aware of, particularly the first 2 weeks of February, around about to the 14th, from a timing point of view, where we just keep on doing the same thing over and over and over. Or perhaps we have got so used to the risk and the challenge and the state of high readiness and intensity that we haven't even become aware of how abnormal it is. Perhaps we have normalized something. And part of this process of this month is to really start to get out of that. Okay, find a way out of that loop. Okay, loop, 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 loop. What is that behavior, that belief system that keeps on putting us back into the loop, towards the bottom of this pit? And this changing line says the way we deal with this is, despite what everything is happening around us, right? We have to stay confident, we have to stay alert, cognizant of the risk, cognizant of our behavior, our belief system, the way we're thinking, the way we keep on repeating cycles or saying yes to risk, yes to risk, yes to risk, okay? Be aware of those cycles, stay confident and keep moving. Stay in your principle, keep moving, keep paddling, Keep floating, keep doing, keep bringing yourself to the moment. Stay in a positive, confident state of mind, even when you don't feel it. Fake it till you make it. Do what you have to do to find the positive moment, the positive energy, the confidence to keep on paddling, to keep on floating and swimming. Soft doggy paddle, okay, not wild thrashing. So we do not take ourselves down to the bottom of the pit. We need to avoid that, okay, avoid the repeated mistakes. Okay, so the first 2 weeks of the month, the way we deal with this abysmal energy is we stay confident, we stay focused, we bring ourselves to the work, we stay principled, we stay in our center, and we just keep doing. We can do that. That leads to a second hexagram, right? Strengthening towards the end of the month, second half of the month. And that is hexagram 60, limitation, right? In October 2025, we had these two hexagrams, but in reverse. We started with limitation and we went to 29. Okay. It would be worthwhile if you made a comment on the videos, and that's how it's useful in a way, because you can go back and look at what you commented. Go back, and if you commented, go and have a look at what you said for that episode. What was happening for you as you worked through October and perhaps the early part of November? Because that will give you a clue of the kind of energy that February is trying to bring to our awareness. Different issues, different flows, that will give you a clue. So we have them in reverse. Here we have the first half of the month is this wild river pumping down, and the second half of the month we're needing to control and contain that water. Whereas we had it the other way around. In a way, this combination feels a little bit more natural to me. You have a wild river, and then once the main energy of that river is pumped out towards the middle of the month, you could start containing and controlling and bringing things back into a focused energy. Okay. Hexagram 60, limitation, structurally. Okay, we have water on the top, right? And we have lake on the bottom. So we have a lake that already has water in it, and now the water is pumping in through the top. So we run the risk of overwhelm, okay, of too much water, overflowing the banks and flowing down the river, right? We think about this hexagram like a dam. You've heard me say that before. A contained dam, right, where we have water and rivers flowing into the dam, and we have controls around how we release the water out the bottom end. Okay, we have the sluice gates, we have automation systems and pressure valves and all those lovely things. We have systems in place to help us control the flow. So, first half of the month is just being in the flow and dealing with what the flow is bringing us. Okay, not going to the bottom of that abyss. Second half of the month, we now need to put in place controls, checks and balances, breaking up things into chapters, into chunks, chunking things down. Okay, we create structure, we take out our diaries, we book things, we have lists, we manage and control our lives, which includes emotional boundaries and relationships with others. We manage the sluice gate. Okay, so wherever we are needing to manage our boundaries more effectively, to manage the overwhelm and the too much of water, whatever that means for you in this month, that is where this hexagram is bringing you energy to help you do that. Okay, that's what the hexagrams do. They bring us the energy, the situation and the energy and the focus to help us to maximize how we deal with it. We don't get hexagram 29 because we can't deal with hexagram 29. We get hexagram 29 because it's trying to help us grow. And the symbol, the metaphor of 29, then helps us grow through that flow. Make sense? So we work with this month where we are just dealing the first half, just dealing with the flow, just dealing with the tumultuous process. Okay. Second half of the month, we are getting more focused and structured and organized to contain that flow, direct it, and to stay calm and in control, to manage the boundaries, right? To put in place self-imposed limits. Because if we have the discipline to control ourselves and to control the part of our world that we can, and we don't try and over-control people, but we put in healthy boundaries for people, we can get somewhere. We can maximize the use of this water, because in a dam, when you have water pumping through, what do you get? When you have a hydroelectric plant, you get power. Okay. We can make magic. We can do things because we have taken responsibility for controlling the flow, right? When we don't take control of the flow and we let the chaos consume us, all right, we get chaos. And what happens is that this hexagram still works whether you want to take responsibility for it or not. What happens is we get limits imposed upon us. I would rather take responsibility for my own limits, my own boundaries, than have someone else impose limits upon us. And perhaps wherever you have the external creating discipline upon you, right? Creating structure and boundaries, where you have the external coming in and creating that for you, know it's because there's a part of you that is out of control on that level, right? Where the water is just pumping, okay, and the risk is too much. So wherever you experience those things coming at you, what you have to do is you have to use self-reflection. It might not necessarily be the case that, those limits are coming because you haven't done the work, okay? It might just be flow of the time, right? Impersonal. But we do have to do the work, and we have to say, right, I've got this boundary that's been put in place. Maybe I've been put back in my box somehow, right? I've been told no, or I've been saying, here's a boundary, don't go. What does that mean? Did I step outside the box? Did I misunderstand my flow, my own controls, my self-discipline? And is that why the boundary is being put upon me? That's the development opportunity we all have in working with the I Ching. A very interesting month. The water is pumping down through both hexagrams, so hang on. It's going to be an interesting month. It's luckily a shorter month, so we'll get through this together. Happy flow, and thank you for being here with me. And of course, if this was valuable to you, hit the thumbs up, okay, the like button, subscribe and follow if that's useful to you. And I will see you very soon for our first weekly overview for February. And let's get stuck into the month. Until then, take care.